Hello, everyone. My name is Emily with the Rising Stars Football Academy, and welcome back to another installment of hashtag Feature Friday, a segment dedicated to featuring different student athletes and coaches in their experiences with our camps and combines. Now, today we are joined by Millersville head football coach J.C. Morgan. Coach Morgan came to Millersville after a 13-year stint at Shippensburg University, where he served the last 3 seasons as the offensive coordinator, and his efforts on the recruiting trail set the foundation for 2 PSAC East titles, a PSAC championship, and 3 NCAA playoff appearances for the Raiders. Now, in his 3rd season at Millersville, he hopes to continue that level of success. He's been a guest coach at a few of our camps, and we can't thank him enough for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me on.
So I'd like to kind of dive into your playing career. Now, you actually attended Bucknell to play football. So can you talk a little bit about your experience there and how it was competing at a Division I program?
I really enjoyed my experience at Bucknell as a student athlete. I had the pleasure of playing fullback, which we try to keep that position alive, although it's not used as much. But we were running the West Coast offense there at the time, and really enjoyed my tenure there as a player. It was a very unique opportunity because we were playing at the Division I level, but it's also in a conference and at a university that stresses high academics. So I always felt like I got the best of both worlds in terms of competing at a very high level while achieving and getting a quality education. And I think it really put the student athlete term into full focus.
Now, you actually did a bit of coaching during your time in college, football and basketball, actually. So, how did you first get involved with that and knew that you wanted to make it a career?
I would have to go back a little bit further because when I was in high school, I actually coached at the Pop Warner level, and I just always knew that that was something that I loved doing. If you looked at my high school notebooks, you would see plays drawn all over. In my math book, my social studies book, or whatever. There was always diagrams and X's and O's and stuff like that. Drove my mom crazy and drove my teachers crazy. When I was at Bucknell, going into my senior year, I was just battling injuries, couldn't stay healthy, and just one of those deals where my body just didn't really feel like it could go on. So there was times where I was really struggling to stay healthy on a consistent basis, and just really made the decision to take some time off and try to focus on healing. During that time, I ran into somebody who knew I loved the coach and loved the aspect of the game, and suggested that I reach out to the local high school in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, to see if they had any coaching openings. And in fact, they had a paid position. So as a college student athlete, trying to make some money, that was a plus. And I love football, and it gave me an opportunity to stick around. So that's what I did. I spent my senior year coaching. And at first, I flirted with the idea of returning back to Bucknell to finish my career. But by the time that season was over, I was ready to graduate. I knew what I wanted to do, which was get into the coaching field, and I was fully prepared to move on. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. I moved on and was fortunate enough to land an opportunity right out of college into a college coaching position.
Just like you said, you eventually went to Shippensburg to coach. You were pretty successful there and you were very effective as a recruiting coordinator. So, athletically, like, who are the types of players that you like to recruit, and what about them makes them stand out from maybe other potential recruits?
I don't know if at this level you can pinpoint certain traits and things like that as far as athletic skill sets. And I think you have to have a system that is versatile enough to get the players that you get. So at the end of the day, yes, you want to, there's a certain height, there's a certain weight, there's a certain speed level and all that stuff. But ultimately, the guys that win football games in this conference are guys who play very hard, or very coachable, and fly around the field. And that's ultimately what it starts with in the evaluation process for me, is to really see how a young man approaches the game, how they can play at a very high rate. All the other stuff will fit. And
Mhm.
the young man can fly around, play physical football, and run around like his hair's on fire. I think it's up to us as coaches to find a way to put him in a position to be successful.
And how does a student athlete's behavior off the field impact your recruiting decisions? So, do you take a look at their academics, their involvement in the community, social media presence, things of that nature?
You have to consider all those things when you're deciding who you bringing into your locker room and who you're bringing on the campus. And yes, you're going to look at trends on their transcripts. You're going to look at their attendance. You're going to look at how they perform in the classroom, and you want to talk to their coaches to see how coachable they are. And also, you want to get a handle on how they're going to act when they leave your football facility. It's very important that you do your research on that. So it's important to talk to the coaches, but when you establish yourself in recruiting territory, you can talk to a lot of people in the community. And when you establish yourself as a regular in the school buildings, you can talk to the guidance counselors, the cafeteria workers, and you try to find any piece of information that you can on a young man. Because once they drop him off at your university, you got to know that they're going to represent their name, they're going to represent their family, and they're going to represent the football family the way it should be. Each individual case is different. There's young men that have made mistakes when they were 14 or 15 years old. You can't hold that against them. In some cases, you have to really look in and see how they're maturing throughout their teenage years. So each case is individual, but it is very important you know who you're bringing into your program.
Now you've just entered your third season at Milledgeville and unfortunately was stopped due to the pandemic. So how has this pause kind of affected the recruitment process for your team?
I mean, there were some things that we could not do that we normally would have done during a recruiting process. But one thing we talk about here at Millersville, we talk about how can we remain positive? How can we control what we can control and make the best out of any situation? So as a staff, we had to do some things differently, but there were some advantages to the setup. We were able to use the virtual setting like a lot of schools to reach as many young men as possible, which when you're in a car driving, that's not easy to do. The other thing too, because we weren't allowed to have big groups as we normally would, we were able to have our visits structured in a way that was very individualized. So we were able to take a lot of time to get to know the young men in a one-on-one setting, know their families very well. And I think in turn, the young men got to know us as coaches very well too. So those are the positives that we got out of the recruiting situation as it was during the COVID period. And I think we learned a lot about what we can do moving forward. So I don't think recruiting will ever be the same again. And that's not a bad thing. And we'll try to continue to find ways to be very effective at Millersville to get the best young men that we can get to help us achieve success as a program.
Would you say that because of the time that we're in and having to do a lot of this virtual, that you were able to meet with a lot more potential recruits than you actually would have if it were in person?
In a way, yes. With our season being canceled, a lot of our focus could be put towards recruiting, and especially in the fall.
Mhm.
And normally in the fall, you're busy with your season and you spend a little bit of time in recruiting. I'm sure a lot of schools felt the same way, is that without a season, we were doing workouts with our players, we were developing our players, but a large portion of time could be spent on evaluating film, reaching out to recruits, and that was spread out over the course of the summer all the way through the fall. So you may not have had the opportunity to meet with a certain amount of recruits in a day, but we had a lot more days. And
Mhm.
we at Millersville, I felt we did a great job taking advantage of those opportunities, in person, virtual, and then also with the evaluation piece. And for us, when October, November hit, our evaluations were all finished and we had a recruiting plan and we were able to go out and execute that.
You kind of touched on this next question a little bit, but when you get the call that you guys aren't going to have a season, what are you kind of doing with your coaching staff to schedule things like Zoom calls, group workouts with all of your players?
We were very much focused on how we could engage in our players because it was an emotional time for them. There was a lot of emotion that came out when the season was canceled. And we had some seniors that we had to say goodbye to, unfortunately. And it was very sad for them because that's not how football should end. They deserve to have a senior day, they deserve to go through everything one last time. And then you have high school seniors that are coming in as freshmen who are very excited, and now they're coming into this new environment not knowing what to expect. So we had to guide them through things. And then there's the current student athletes that are already in your program that you're moving forward with, and we had to keep them in line as well, and be there for them. So whether it was academic advisement, which we put a lot of attention to and a lot of effort into, whether it was workouts during the fall season, which we were allowed to have workouts, and half of our team did come back to participate in those. So we were fortunate to have some guys on campus in the fall in a virtual setting, just trying to continue to teach the game of football, to try to continue to grow our young men in their development. We used all those opportunities to really keep them engaged and moving forward. And I think that's going to really pay off over the next couple years.
And what are you guys doing now to prepare for your upcoming season? And how are you guys able to stay safe while doing so?
We came back in January when classes started and we hit the ground running. Our entire team came back. They had the option not to, but they were hungry. They wanted to move forward and they all came back ready to work. And that was great to see. We started as soon as we could. We put them in the weight room. A couple weeks later, we were able to get out on the field. So we've been out on the field since early February. We started some form of practices in mid February, and we're going to start full team practices next week. So we tried to really keep them moving forward, keep them in advanced in our teachings, and keep them advanced in their development, working on their technique. And we're so excited to get out on the field next week to actually go through full 11 on 11 drills, and we get to start to see how these young men have improved and how the work has paid off.
Mhm. And I'd like to kind of transition to your relationship with the Rising Stars Football Academy. So, how did you actually get introduced to Ron and his organization?
When I was at Shippensburg, Ron, being an alum of Shippensburg, came back to speak with the team. I really felt good about his message, his story, and his journey. And so, just that alone, I was attracted to what he was doing. And then when I started to get information about what he was doing with his camps, it was a great opportunity to jump in and start working the camps. And I want to have fun during the summer. I want to be involved with football. I want to work camps. I want to go out and evaluate 7-on-7 tournaments and prospect camps. And it was, when the opportunity came and I had a chance to do it, it just timed up with my summer schedule and, we had a lot of fun.
And were you surprised to see a camp that worked with three divisions of players? So, we have high school varsity and JV, junior high, and also midget level.
I guess the surprise was that it was all going on at once. And
Mhm.
I've been a part of camps that had worked with different age groups, but they were segmented and they were never on the field at the same time. Ron's camp is very unique because on the field you have the varsity level players and then you have second graders who never played football before. So in that way, you're switching gears a lot. You take a kindness to the young men that are trying to develop into college ready football players. And then, you're trying to have an approach with the younger guys, the elementary and junior high guys, that you're trying to make it fun for them. And that was the best time I had was working with the young guys because it took me back to my time when I was coaching at the Pop Warner level, but
Mhm.
it also took me back to a time when I was 8, 9, 10 years old and used to just go out and go to summer camp and play for fun.
Mhm.
And as a coach, it was great to get back to that.
And what positions do you coach at our camps and combines?
I know Ron will put me with the running backs because that's the position I've had the most experience at, but I always found my way to float around to every position.
Mhm.
I would sneak around and poke my head with the receivers or the linemen, linebackers, wherever I was needed, would try to just go in and have some fun and help out whatever was possible. But I'm a guy that can't sit still, so I would sneak away and find myself in many different positions.
And what are, some of the techniques and the skills that you work on with our participants?
With the high school young men, you really are trying to work on their technical abilities. You're trying to develop the skill sets and get them to understand the skill sets that is needed for the next level. You're not trying to replace what their coaches are doing and what their coaches have taught them, but you're just trying to give them something else to put in their toolbox. With the younger players, the focus is really on having fun and just teaching the basic level skills. I love to see the younger kids try every position. Even if they may appear to be a lineman, let them be a tailback, let them catch a pass because you never know how their bodies are going to turn out. The guy who may look like a lineman in second or third grade, his body may totally change in eighth grade. He's 6'2", 190, and he's a linebacker or a receiver or a tight end. So you want to make sure at that age that they have a diverse range of skills, not just narrowed down to a certain position.
And what would you say is, one of your favorite memories from camp? We weren't able to have it last year, and that's a big disappointment for us. But, you've been working with us for a little bit. So if you have like one memory that kind of sticks out above all else.
I don't know if I can pinpoint like a specific memory. I just know when it was time to play Razzle Dazzle, that was the highlight of everybody's day. And it was the highlight of our day as coaches because we used to have fun with those games. I think the most enjoyable part of working with Ron's camp is seeing young men at the elementary and junior high level, and you watch them grow throughout the years. And now I'm at the stage now where those younger kids are now being recruited. I'm recruiting them, and so it's pretty neat to see them grow to the next level and compete at the high school level. A lot of these guys are in the York League or the York Adams League, or they're in the Mid Penn, and to watch them perform at a high level and play well when you knew them when they were 9, 10, 11 years old, it's pretty cool. So that's what I enjoy the most. And taking this position at Millersville kind of lost that for the last few years because Ron's camp stayed in Shippensburg and I moved on. And a lot of our staff who worked Ron's camp moved on with me. That's one of the reasons why I'm very excited that the camp is coming to Millersville, is because now get reconnected with the youth football again and the junior high football. We're always going to be connected with high schoolers, but again, seeing a guy who's 10, 11 years old become a young man and now he's ready to be recruited and I'm dealing with him in a different level, it's pretty neat. It makes you feel old too, no doubt, but it's one of the most enjoyable things about working the camp.
And like you said, our camp this summer, July 4th to the 8th, is going to be at Millersville University. So anybody who's watching, make sure you go to our website and register right away. Going to be able to meet Coach Morgan and some of his players. So, we're really excited to come visit you in the summer. But we like to end on like an inspirational note, aspirational note. So what is one message that you would like to share with any like high school or junior high football player?
When you're at the junior high level and early in your high school years, if you're making the decision to play college football, you have to prepare now. And I think the one thing that gets lost is the academic requirements that are needed. And you have to really identify those requirements as you're leaving junior high, going into ninth grade, so that you can put yourself in the best position to be recruited. I see a lot of young men that get to 11th and 12th grade, and it's too late. They didn't have that focus of what it took academically and from an eligibility standpoint to get ready for the college level. So if it's something that you think you want to do, you have to get after it now in the classroom, just as you do in the weight room, just as you do on the field. Then the last piece of advice is just try to have the most fun you possibly can. This is a different game than a lot of other sports, and that's not a bad thing to other sports, but this is one where you have a shorter shelf life with football because there's not a lot of rec leagues outside of even the college level and things like that as it is in other sports. Have fun, do your best. It's the ultimate team sport. There's nothing like it, and when you have team success and you know you're a part of that in whatever capacity, it's the best thing in the world.
Well, I'd like to thank you for speaking with me today. And, we also appreciate all your help with our camps and combines. So good luck to you guys with your upcoming season. And again, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Can't wait to get you guys out to Millersville. We have great facilities, a great campus, and I think the young men that come out to that camp will enjoy the experience. I'm so excited to get you out.
We're excited to get there. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.